Welcome to Stories from the 3 Billion Under 30, featuring interviews with world-class millennials as well as the celebrities, Fortune 500 executives, and mentors that guide us. Welcome to another episode of Stories from the 3 Billion Under 30. I am here with my good friend Alex Wolf today, who James Altucher connected us via email. I actually don't know James. You do know James because you're cool, and I'm not. But
you're very cool, come on.
If you don't know by now, I've kind of given everyone that I've had on the show this prompt of let's have the most fun interview possible, albeit, with the limitations of cameras and having to sit down, and in exchange for being really fun and goofy and whatever, let's be super practical with the advice we give you. So when I gave this prompt to Alex here, originally we were going to build lanyards, camp, but I don't even know what that means, and she couldn't find lanyard material making.
It's hard. I guess kids don't use that. Like, why would you need a lanyard if there's, iPhones? So.
So we're not making lanyards, but we have clay, and I'll let you describe why we have clay in a minute.
We have clay because clay is cool.
Or now.
Yeah. I mean, we can create anything out of clay, and so this is going to be us testing our creative abilities. So.
I like it.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know, Alex is an Instagram influencer who has turned a Instagram following under Boss Babe, which is her number one or her main following in the past, and turned into a really successful online business. She's now becoming this millennial thought leader in her own right, working potentially on books and on other film projects in the future, maybe some consulting, maybe some more crazy blown up Instagram channels. But I really want to learn from you, one, how you were able to grow Boss Babe from 0 to 250 in terms of thousands of followers, 250,000. More impressively is how you went from that to a business that makes a sizable income per month that you were able to hire a team for and kind of delegate out, which is impressive. And then third, you definitely have a personal branding awareness about you. So those three things I think will be really practical as we're having fun to share.
Yeah, let's do it.
And I mean, is that a decent enough intro, or is there parts of your story I'm missing out from a surface level standpoint?
No, that's pretty much it. I just was experimenting with social media. I've always been obsessed with communications and marketing, and I just, didn't give up until I figured it out, and I'm still, figuring it all out, so yeah.
And I'm so thankful, emoji blessed, that you'll be in the next book as well. So yeah. She's a 3 billion under 30 contributor too. So can you explain why we have clay?
So one of the things about my brand, my personal brand, is I feel like I like to kind of remind people how fast the world is moving, technology and stuff like that. And so for the first idea, I wanted to do lanyards because I actually saw a meme that said today's kids will never know, and it had lanyards. So just the whole concept of how much, since even when me and you were kids, the world has changed drastically. Right. And so I feel like the clay kind of symbolizes what doesn't get done anymore sometimes with young people, and just I want to
having a childhood.
Yeah, it's just how much childhood has changed, how much our relationships have changed. Right. And I'm not saying it's bad. I'm definitely I want to invite people to just observe what's happening versus judge, because I think it's fascinating enough to just watch it, just watch what's happening. So anyway, and plus it's fun. It's like a rainbow. It's colorful.
So what do you want to do with the clay?
I was thinking we can come up with maybe what symbolizes millennial freedom, because I think that's another thing that's really changed. What symbolized freedom to an adult 20 years ago probably is an absolute trap to us, a house with a mortgage and a car payment. So and plus I want to know what freedom looks like to you. So
things that mean freedom to us.
Yeah, for millennials. Can you do that? You
try.
You know how to do that.
I'll try it. Let's go.
You can make it
Am I just gonna make, or do I need to tell you what I'm making as I do it?
Let's just make it, and then if you feel compelled to explain it to me, I'd love to hear what you made.
Got it.
Yeah.
So what was going through your head as you were in the arts and crafts store?
I was thinking, don't know. I was just kind of like freaked
How
out.
can I fuck with Jared?
I mean, honestly, I was thinking like, where's the lanyard? But you know, it was cool walking around. I don't know. It was like there was a lot of cool time killers in there as far as like arts and crafts. So yeah.
I have no idea what you're making right now.
You'll see in a little bit.
That's not what I wanted to make, but that's okay. So I'm making different things that relate to what success means to me.
Okay.
And part of it is freedom, but I think to me, like, success has multiple components to it.
Okay. Like.
So I'll show you in a second as soon as I finish this one, which hopefully might be obvious.
You gotta be a little bit more resourceful with the clay. You're just using big old bulks. What if I wanted green? I'm gonna hide the green now.
She's a savage. We're supposed to be talking. Sorry, Jason. So, the first one I have is money.
Yes.
Because when I was growing up, I grew up in a family that had a bunch of successful entrepreneurs.
Right.
I wasn't really entitled to any of it because my parents took a more traditional path, and so that money wasn't directly attributed to me.
Mm-hmm.
But it was cool that I was surrounded by entrepreneurs,
right,
and saw what financial freedom looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So that did become something I wanted because I wasn't entitled to it.
Right, you knew it existed.
Exactly, and I knew, yeah, I could kind of taste it, but I couldn't take the pizza home. Like I could have a bite of the pizza, maybe finish a slice occasionally, but I couldn't bring home the rest of the pie.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, because I wasn't entitled to it, and because I saw the pitfalls of going after finances alone, there's other things along the way that became important to my health or to my success. And that, like, health is like, I guess this is a tomato, I don't know. I was originally going to try and go for an apple, but health also became something that was really important to me. You know, I didn't want to have mental health problems. Like, I didn't want to be very stressed,
right.
Which I have family members who are very, very, very successful financially, but don't have their health. Either
right.
were overweight at points in their life, or had to have major surgeries, or have crazy, crazy stress. So that's important to me, and I kind of want to make sure that that doesn't happen to me.
Right.
And then my other three, I can try and make them, but to me, lifestyle design is another big pillar. And I want to be able to construct a life that is under my rules. And if I want to travel, that means I want to be able to work on Wi-Fi, as we were saying earlier.
Yeah.
If it's, I just want total lifestyle design freedom, kind of the James Altucher, Tim Ferriss world.
Right.
Pillars 4 and 5 were relationship success, both personal and professional. I want to be surrounded with peers who inspire me, mentors who inspire me, and I want to help inspire people in a very high quality way from a professional standpoint. And then romantically, I want, you know, great relationships with people I date, and I want those to be very high quality. And the fifth is community. I want to have and build and be a part of very nurturing communities, both physically and online. So to me, that's like the 5 pillars of success. I know you said freedom, but I think if you have success in those 5 pillars, you will be free.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So I don't know. I can try and make like the other 3, but I'll work on it while you explain, and I'll let you be the guest again and explain to us what you're making. Looks like a Snapchat ghost.
Yeah, I have a Snapchat ghost, and I have like an old school Apple computer.
Okay.
And I don't know, I guess mine are a little bit more abstract than yours. You had like a very like, this is what freedom is. The Snapchat ghost for me just kind of symbolizes disruption, because I feel like Snapchat right now is disrupting all forms of media and forcing us to rethink what it is to connect with people, what it is to connect with brands. And the reason why that symbolizes freedom to me is just because it's a representation of, you know, the ability to make something, like, you know, just being able to make an app that connects with people, and how the average person can, Google their way through their problems and create something really cool. So I just love Snapchat because it's confusing so many people, and it makes me kind of excited about the future. And then I would say the Apple computer, I don't know, I just have a thing for big, bulky computers. My dad was in IT, he's still in IT, but as a kid, like, I had computers before, most people did. And so to me, they kind of represent me being a kid, playing around with the computers. And I think I took that for granted at the time, and I'm way more appreciative of that now because it gave me kind of a head start on being comfortable with a mouse and a keyboard and, playing around with Word and PowerPoint until I figured it out. What is that?
It's a sandal stepping on a beach.
That's really
See,
cool.
like, the water,
yeah,
the beach.
That's cute.
Like the worst sandal ever. Sorry for the sound effects, guys. What prompted you to get into Boss Babe in the first place? I think that'd be a good transition because you have, a tech inspiration from your father. I guess the predecessor of cool social media platforms would be Instagram to Snapchat. Snapchat's the cool kid on the block, but Instagram's like the cool teenager.
Yeah, Instagram's like the cool
like
kid
grandma.
who just graduated. And I was like, that kid's gonna be successful.
Yeah.
So how did I get started with Boss Babe? I mean, I'm pretty open about this now, but like at the time I was 20, and I was obsessed with being like, Insta famous. Not necessarily through Instagram, but I wanted to be seen. I wanted to be like an influencer. And so I was studying social media as much as possible, just figuring out like what makes people tick, what makes people do things like this and that. And
how do I get Detox Tea to send me $100,000 check?
Stuff like that, yeah, exactly. And I went down to LA to this like weird hosting kind of class where they were teaching people how to host TV shows. Because initially I really wanted to be on TV. And there the woman was like, look, TV is dying. This is not the way to go. You want to be on social media. And she gave all these examples of people who were just being really candid and honest on social media and how they grew followings and they got book deals. And it was kind of like, this is my answer. And so I remember sitting in my chair at this event and thinking, mind you, like I rode down there on a bus, like I was like, I had probably like not that much money to my name at the time. And I remember thinking about this concept of Boss Babe and just thinking about like how right now there's so many young millennial women who want to be feminine and want to be a businesswoman at the same time and don't want to sacrifice either of those things. And thus the brand was born, and I just started making stuff online and really just talking about kind of the struggles I was going through. And yeah, we got 100 followers the first day. Well, now I say we, but at the time it was just me and my phone.
It's always we.
Yeah. And then
you gotta play bigger than you actually are.
Yeah, so, and then the second day, another 100 followers, the third day, another, and it just kept growing. And then by the seventh day, I was like, whoa, this is gonna be something, like I should do something about it. And I did, so. What
impresses me is that you said it was only like a year or a year and a half that it went from 0 to 250,000 or almost 250,000 followers, but these things don't take, like it takes time.
Right.
Even if it was a year, that's still 365 days and a lot of hard work behind that.
Right.
Not a week, not a month, not 2 months.
Right.
You've been working at this for a long time.
Yeah.
And now you've been able to put someone in place to run that brand.
Right.
Now that you've put someone in place at Boss Babe to kind of take over the brand, for whatever reasons, maybe you want to play a bigger game, maybe you want to change your brand and not be known as the Boss Babe, but just an overall boss. We've had conversations about why you wanted to make the transition. And I think it's a mixture of a few things, but I guess to end that chapter, how can someone do what you did on Instagram as far as just growing their platform for whatever brand that they have, or even their personal brand, and then how can they parlay that into a bigger business?
Well, I think the first, because
it's just relationships. It's
I think the
going
first,
for the pillars.
The first question I think people should ask themselves when they're like, how do I become, the next big thing, is why? Why do you want to become the next big thing? And I think, I definitely was caught up in this idea that unless I was someone online, I was no one. And I think that got in the way of me really being able to say my message. It wasn't until I was able to be vulnerable enough and say things that weren't really being said that I started to get a reaction back. So I definitely think that if people are just getting into this because they want the attention and not because they're really trying to, make an impact or, give, right? I think a lot of people go on social media and say, how can I get? And it's really like, you get by giving. People want to follow you because they want to get something from following you. So the first step is just really figuring out what
value can you give?
Yeah, like what's behind your intention in the first place. Like, don't just get into this because you think it's cool, and I would say that for business in general. Like, there's so many really ugly, hard parts about being in business. It's not all just fun and games.
I mean, it's not all making clay and talking to cool people.
No. But
I was under that impression. This show might not last that long. No.
It's this, but it's also other things. And so how does someone get started? I think you can't be ordinary. Like, everything ordinary that could have been made has been made. So you have to have an edge, you have to have a twist. We're not just an outlet for women or millennial women or millennial businesswomen. We're an outlet for millennial businesswomen who happen to be into fashion and makeup. So that's like three layers of niching down. And that's what really made this reaction of like, oh my God, you have to follow this girl. Like, oh my God, she's in my brain, because it felt so customized. And I think where a lot of people fail is this is with marketing in general. All the time you see it, it's like, I want to appeal to everyone, I want to be the Oprah brand where everyone loves me. And it's like, it took Oprah decades to get to where she is. Not everyone loves her anyway. And if you're getting into this just so everyone loves you, that's just like a really foggy intention. You know what I mean? So you have to be willing to take the criticisms and speak for an audience that doesn't have a voice yet. So. And
look, like for that audience, you've done such a good job at personal branding that people have gotten Boss Babe tattoos.
Yeah.
At the same time, you've probably gotten adamant comments of like, why is it Boss Babe? It should just be Boss.
Right.
Things like that.
Right.
Which I know you personally subscribe to that more so than like Boss Babe.
Right.
Which is part of why you're transitioning your personal brand now.
Right.
But it just goes to show that like we should be taking what you're saying with heavy attention, because you've done this. You've done personal branding so successfully that you were able to get people to tattoo your brands on them.
Right.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Like, if I can get anyone if I can get one person to tattoo the sub logo within 2 billion under 20 and 3 billion under 30, I win.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
Yeah, no, it's super cool, and it just really proves how much, as much as we talk about how the world is becoming more connected, I believe we're becoming more and more lonely. And I think a community like Boss Babe really fills those voids for a lot of young women who feel like no one understands what I want. No one understands that I want a business for myself. My parents don't get it. My boyfriend doesn't get it. And so that feeling of being included will cause someone to want to get a tattoo, or I get emails that are pages long about how Boss Babe has changed their lives, and it's just like it's about having that shared value behind the brand that just connects people.
Speaking of community, while you're on it, this is my fifth pillar. This is Foursquare.
I was gonna say, yeah.
I mean, that was like the one childhood game I played when I was a child, for like between the ages of 2 and 4.
So you were a child?
Between the ages of like 2 and 4. Yeah.
Okay.
Started my first business at 5. No.
I did a birthday cake because it was just my birthday.
Aw.
And yeah. I feel like an old person, but I'm not.
I did call you on your birthday, right? Or I did text you?
Yeah.
I did something?
Yeah,
Okay.
call. Thank you.
I think that's important. Like, yeah, if you don't take anything else away from this, like call people on their birthdays. Especially if it's friends, even more so if it's family. But I mean, your superpowers are personal branding, some social media marketing, things like that. I mean, mine is connecting with people, and
very true.
You can't network your way into calling people on their birthdays.
Yeah.
You can, but you're an idiot. You should actually care about who you're calling, and
right.
that takes effort, even if it's 2-3 minutes. To have a 2 or 3 minute conversation, you got to know someone, and yeah, if it's the tiny thing I can do on your birthday, that separates me from the few hundred people who said happy birthday or happy B-day or HBD on Facebook or tweeted at you.
Some a cake emoji.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Call people on their birthdays. I want to go down a little practicality rabbit hole about personal branding, because now that I've known you for a couple months, you're going through a transition in your personal brand.
Yeah.
Which means you have to essentially start at zero.
Yeah.
Or change the way you're building that, which means you are very conscious about the steps that you're taking to build your personal brand or change your personal brand.
Yeah.
And I would love for you to share with everyone at home or traveling, wherever you're watching this, how to grow or how to develop a personal brand step by step.
Yeah, I think the best kind of mentality that I've taken on is really about, I think we feel like there's so much pressure to add things to ourselves that we're not good enough already. It's like, oh, I have to be an expert in this, or I have to, brag about this accomplishment. And I find that what people really are attracted to are the most authentic pieces of content that I can create. So, instead of adding layers onto who you think you should be, it's really about taking all of that off and trying to be as raw as possible. That's really the challenge. And honestly, most people who want to get into personal branding, I feel from my experience, they want to play the perfect person. They want to be the everyone loves me person, and the market is just too saturated for that. No one wants that. No one wants to.
The market is saturated for perfect?
I think so.
Or for perceived perfection?
I think people crave, a raw, authentic voice. This is very, very altucher, right? Sometimes if I can't write, I will read something he wrote, and then I'll be able to explain what I wanted to say.
Kind of bleed or...
Yeah, and actually when I met with him, and I was kind of a mess, and I was like, I'm transitioning and I don't know what to do, and he was like, write about it. Every time I was like, he was like, write about it. And I was like, okay, it was so simple. And so that's kind of my approach now. Every time I have a freak out or a moment, I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna write about this. And those pieces of content, those blogs, those videos, I mean, they make me feel better because I've released kind of this vulnerability. It's scary. I definitely am like, oh my God, people are gonna know my fears and my secrets. But on the spectrum of the World Wide Web, it's not that big of a deal, and it really helps people feel more human and less hard on themselves. So,
so you're saying personal branding to you is more of a subtractive exercise than an additive one.
Yeah.
Rather than add complexity to who you are as a person, rather than add layers, help others get closer to you.
Yeah.
By removing the distance.
Exactly. You'll actually find out how interesting of a person you are when you allow yourself to be yourself.
So
how
do you do that?
I think a big step is just having the balls. I think just a lot of people just don't have the balls.
I have the balls.
And that's human nature.
I can't get it into my makeshift. Yes!
Woo!
As I say it, you gotta believe in yourself.
Exactly. That's part of it. Out of 100 people who want to get into personal branding, probably only, I would guess, this is just something I'm saying out of experience, probably only 10 of them will actually do it successfully because they'll have the balls to do it. So I think that's the first step, is realizing that you are putting yourself in a position to be criticized and judged. And, you know, it's scary. But at the same time, you know, these are the same people who say, how do I get a following? How do I make myself unique? Well, you do it by actively trying to not be anyone else and be yourself. And that market is not saturated. The honesty market, where it's like, oh my God, this person shared their story of how they came out of, you know, how they were homeless and now they have this, or, you know, they had this job and now they have that job. Those are the stories that wake people up. Every day, it's like, there's so much stuff I could be reading. And it's like, I'm only reading stuff that does something to my mind, to my heart, and like, those are the honest people.
And how are you building on that? Like I guess that's the awareness piece of a personal brand. Now that you're in the transition, how are you amplifying that? How are you redeveloping your personal brand?
Yeah, I think I'm finding a balance between what my audience wants to hear and what I want to say. So I'm definitely kind of reaching out my hand more and asking like, hey, what is it about what I talk about that you love? And then, you know, sometimes it's not what I want to talk about. So it's really finding that sweet spot of like, how can I cater to my audience, but also, you know, fulfill my like goals of what I want to give out.
Are there specific questions you'll ask online that have garnered the best responses for what people want?
The safest, easiest way to like please your market is just ask them, right? Like, what do you want? And so I've done that many times. I know a lot of like intense marketer friends who just like that, they build their whole business off of, what do you guys want to learn? Okay, I can teach you that. Boom. And it's like a perfect kind of match.
They literally ask like, what do you want? Or is there like a way of asking that question or a way of presenting that works better than others?
You can do kind of just like, what do you want? But I think a more strategic way is like, these are the 3 things that I want to work on. Which one out of these 3 things do you like the most? And then whatever's, you know, voted on the most is what, you know, that person will make a course out of or a book out of.
Now, is the quantitative more important than the qualitative? AKA, is 10 people voting for option A more important than the 2 people voting for options B and C? Or is there a qualitative component too where, 10 people might have voted for option A, but the 2 people that voted for option B are so adamantly against option A or so pro option B that you take that into consideration more so than the quantitative?
Yeah, that's a really sophisticated question.
I'm trying to get practical here.
No, I think that you want to go where the majority goes. I think that's the easiest like route to travel. But again, maybe that's not what you want to talk about. So it's really about finding the sweet spot. Like I can go on and on about how to build a following and an email list for days, but sometimes I don't want to talk about that. Sometimes I want to talk about more of the economic reasons why building an email list and having a social following is important, and kind of getting behind the reason versus just like that layer. So you have to, you know, make sure you position yourself so that you are asking people if they want to hear stuff that you also want to talk about.
Right.
And it's also just good to test the market. Like even if you don't end up building on whatever you gave a poll about, it's just good to know kind of like where everyone's mind is. So.
And now how do you build a business around that? So it's one thing to have a personal brand.
Right.
It's another thing to grow a social media following.
Right.
Which I guess the traditional ways of leveraging that would be growing a big enough following so that people doing influencer marketing can reach out to you and kind of sponsor a post.
Right.
What are the ways that you've taken to kind of grow real businesses off of that are either way more scalable and sustainable, and or are maybe not as traditional?
Yeah, this
I think it'd be beneficial to share that.
Yeah.
Considering that's what Boss Babe is.
It's a beautiful question. I think it's kind of like one of the golden questions of this age. It's like, how do you turn the social following into money? And I would say the first step is, and Seth Godin just did a blog post about this, you are not entitled to demand, which I was just like, yes. So you want to make sure there is demand. That's number one. Like the reason why Boss Babe is a thing is because every day I would get 6 to 7 emails of girls saying, how do I become a Boss Babe? So I realized like, people want this. They want to feel like a Boss Babe. They want this validation. And they also want this community to thrive in. So the demand was there, sitting there. So I think the first step is figuring out like, will people want to buy what you have to offer? You know, don't try to sell.
How do you find that?
I think you have to make a compelling product and a compelling brand. So before I even had the product, I had the demand. And so I had to figure out how to create a product that was going to meet the needs of these people asking these questions. So I knew that these girls wanted a community. I knew that they wanted more resources on how to build their own businesses. And I knew they wanted it from like really good quality influencers.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, you know what? I can just build a website. I'm so thankful I know how to build a website. And when I first got started, I was just like, you know, we're gonna make a community. People pay a small fee and they have access to like hundreds of hours of content and to each other. And so this is a part that kind of goes over everyone's heads, because it's like, you know, you have to be creative about business models. For me, somehow it was just easy to come up with a subscription. But for a lot of people, they just get lost and they don't know where to go. So
I still want to get you to share how to find demand, because I think that's something you could potentially Google for, or you can look at other brands out there and kind of reverse engineer what they're doing due to demand. Meaning, like, we live in a world where you can Google all these different problems and then go solve them, right?
Yeah.
Like, every single problem out there that's important has been amplified by other people. So it's probably easier than ever to figure out problems worth solving and what demand is for.
Right.
So that you could save the, a couple steps of setting up something and then hoping there's demand.
Yeah.
And you kind of fell into it in the first few days. You saw it on day 1, day 2, day 3. But I know a lot of people. I've done it myself, where I've gone through the motions for 2-3 months without ever testing for demand, and then I don't get a return on demand quick enough.
Right.
If that's a thing. I just made that up. Or I don't see enough demand for my lack of patience.
Yeah.
Like, I know patience is not one of my strong suits, but how is there a way to figure out demand specifically for the type of businesses that you like creating?
Yeah, it's funny because, I don't know if demand is really something you have to find, or if it's something that more finds you. And so,
or being flexible enough to meet the demand.
Yeah, like the thing is, demand is weird now. Like, people want the weirdest things. Like, you can sell the weirdest thing online because there are so many options. The consumer has so many options to buy things. You can buy, zebra socks if you wanted to, or you can buy love coaching services. This is all available.
That's weird. That's like your spectrum of weird.
Well, as far as like...
I'm just messing with you.
Well, it is weird compared to where we were, 20 years ago. I don't think you had that same flexibility of like, hey, if I wanted to buy a car on my phone today, I could. And that's reality now. So anyway, as far as like finding demand, I think it's more just about creating a message or a mission that may be in demand for you. Because at the time, for Boss Babe, I felt that there wasn't this voice for this audience. And so once I became that voice, it pulled everyone in who associated with that problem or with that emotion. And so I think the demand starts with yourself. Like, what problem do you want to solve? One of the quotes that's been inspiring me this week is, create the things you wish existed. So, what is out there that's missing? What would just wake you up and make you feel so inspired? Make it, figure out a way to make it. So I created the demand because I felt like I was the demand. I don't know if that makes sense. It does to me. But what are you being drawn to right now then, as a transition out of Boss Babe and into future Alex mode? Yeah.
Like future Alex mode.
Ooh. Hashtag.
Hashtag. We should make a hashtag. For the second time today, I'm making a hashtag, this time out of clay. But no, as you're redefining your personal brand, what problems are you drawn to solving? And what awesome are you creating, or what?
My face is just lighting up with joy.
I should shut up now and let you talk.
Because I love this. I think that's a question everyone should ask themselves. And I think it's the question that answers your previous question. I'm obsessed right now with the future of media. So, you know, Beyonce just launched her visual album, and, you know,
Changed the game.
But, you know, there's something about the album that sets a standard, and what inspires me about it is that she made it an experience. So what I'm really excited about right now is experiential media that takes you in and makes you feel something. You know, and she does that. I think Viceland right now, I don't know if you're watching them, they have like a TV channel. They're killing the game. They're giving millennials and Gen X the content that we really want to see, but they're making it artistic. And so I feel like the future of media is going to have to be an experience. I want to be able to somehow contribute to making something dry, like, you know, maybe economics or topics that most young millennials try to steer away from, and make it sexy and fresh and easy to take in. And I think we can do that by experimenting with sound, visuals, you know, audio, and that's what I'm really excited about and what I want to contribute to.
So how do you selfishly, how do you apply that to like book form?
Oh, well, it's funny you say this. So I just bought the Pizza, Money, Respect, The Fat Jew.
Pizza, Money, Respect, is that the name of his book?
Yeah. And it is so, that book is it's hilarious. It's almost like it's so, oh my God, it's kind of morbid, but it's so good. And every page, there's something different. And so I think that concept is so symbolic to the future of media. Snapchat is so appealing because every tap, you kind of don't know what's going to come next.
What do you mean every page is different? Like
so
the way it's designed?
Yeah, he incorporates a lot of visuals.
Okay.
He takes away from like, you know, he'll be talking about one thing and then he has like, it literally says like side note, and then he has like a beef jerky smoothie recipe in there. And I think the book is a perfect example of kind of, you know, the attention span is going away, and I think we can't ignore that. We have to be able to create media that's going to cater to this wanting of different experiences with each tap or each turn or each, you know, click of a button. And yeah, he does a great job, and that's how I think he would do it with books. Is you kind of take the person on a visual ride, on a, you know, a written ride. He has like a erotica story of him and Kanye and Kim Kardashian in there. So, you know.
I think that sells the book alone.
Yeah.
Okay. And then outside of book form, going back to what you're interested in, I know you're very interested in Snapchat. You've had interest in Instagram, probably still do.
Yeah.
Where do you see the future of media going?
Oh, well, VR, of course.
Do you honestly believe that, or you just think that everyone's saying VR, so you should say it too?
Have you put on a VR headset?
I have.
Okay. How did you feel?
It's definitely like an immersing experience.
Right.
I also think it's a little premature.
I would agree. Yeah.
And I don't know if it's going to be able to replace the human-to-human element, but
we should hope not. But
like you, I'm not one to like judge whether a technology is going to come to fruition or not. It will or will not without me adding my opinion.
Right.
So I'm more observing and just like curious to see what happens.
Yeah.
It won't be the thing. I'm not building VR technology. Like, it's not my zone of genius. It's not my passion.
Trust me.
But I'm curious to see what happens, of course.
Personally, I'm terrified of VR. But one of the things I've noticed, and I've been like doing a lot of research and studying like diffusion of innovation and kind of how patterns go from like absolutely crazy to now normalized. Another good book that I've just finished is The Third Wave, Steve Case. And he keeps talking about, talking about the internet in 89 and 90, people are just like, what are you talking about? That's not going to be a thing. And that's kind of where VR is right now, the positioning of it, where it's like, whatever, like we'll see. And, we have Zuckerberg investing in crap out of it. And that's someone who, he has a nice reputation of predicting future trends. So,
when he invests the crap out of something or tries to invest the crap out of something, it becomes something.
Yeah, and he has if anyone has the power to do it, right? So, That's definitely one thing, and it kind of proves this idea that experiential media is going to be a thing. And maybe you won't need a VR set. I think I'm fine with just the Beyonce visual album. You know, these are things that I feel like, oh my god, I'm old because I'm not gonna, you know, be into VR. You know, we'll see. But I think just taking stuff that could be dry textbook material and turning it into an experience that makes you cry, laugh, understand a story, connect with a character is going to just revolutionize our relationship with content.
I'm having so much fun with this clay, by the way.
I know, you're killing it right now.
I've been making a whole suite of things.
What is that?
It's not a very good looking cake. These haven't been in the episode?
No. You've been holding them up and they've been in the episode. Move them back a bit.
Guys!
This is what happens.
This is what we've been doing the entire time. You haven't been seeing this creation shit. Oh my god.
We are creative!
So, no, it's been a lot of fun having you on the show. Where can people learn more about you? And what should we be looking out for from you from now until you bless us with your story in 3 Billion Under 30?
You can follow me on my blog at alexwolf.co, and that's on my Instagram and Twitter is alexwolfco. And yeah, I'll be around. I like to talk about the future, trends, business trends, and I'm going to be dabbling in experiential media, so...
What is experiential media? Like, besides VR, what else is...
It's media that gives you a profound experience.
So, just anything that Beyonce does. Let's do it.
Kind of. Yeah, she does it for sure.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
You.
We'll link up to your stuff below. Maybe I can make a arrow real quick. I need more clay.
You can just
you kind of threw it all everywhere.
I kind of threw it.
Here. Boom.
You can link and see Alex's stuff below. And if it was Reddit, you can upvote it, but we're not on Reddit. So, thank you. Tune in another day.
Bye.
Thank you for watching another episode of Stories from the 3 Billion Under 30. Now, if you want to see more stories from the 3 Billion Under 30, we actually have a book coming out in January called 3 Billion Under 30. And if you go and click the link in the description below, you can get 3 free stories from the next book right now. Not in January, now. So check it out and follow the rest of the web series in order to see more interviews just like this one.